watching. Millie Odhiambo.
Millie Odhiambo
watching.
One of the greatest.
And has seen, you know, the would we say the fruit of her labor, or pretty much, you know, a person that she has mentored. I think I began by talking about mentorship and how critical it is. And so we get to cross over to that other side. First of all, get to hear what the plans are in relation to advancing the concerns of the women globally, but as well to listen from the bad girl. Yeah. All right, George.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lima and Liz. Good afternoon. It is just about 1:03 p.m. here in New York at the UN headquarters in the United Nations headquarters here in New York, United States. And just to show you the building we are in, as you can see the flags. Yesterday, one of the flags was right there, the Kenyan flag actually. But we've been listening to the conversation and on matters of women, because this is the 69th session of the Commission on the Status of Women. And I'm joined by Honorable Millie Odhiambo, bad girl Millie. A lot was happening in studio. There is a lady who says you actually mentored her. And questions have been especially on the progress we are doing as a country globally. And you spoke about it earlier, and we'll be listening to what you said earlier in the earlier session. But where are we as a country, as the world, in matters of women's rights, and especially also leadership?
Well, I can say since Beijing, which is now 30 years, the world has progressed significantly, and Kenya has especially progressed. And if you look at it in terms of legislation that we have passed that promotes women in issues of women representation, in issues of economic empowerment, you can see in Kenya, we become very digital. It's something that the world recognizes. The things we take for granted, that we have M-Pesa, that people can borrow, you know, M-Pop and stuff like that. A lot of countries are not in that place. So Kenya, we have moved, even from a human rights perspective, we have done quite a lot. But the challenge is there's, of course, been a pushback, very recent, and that's why we are seeing cases of femicide. You can see there's a global people who want the 47 women removed instead of enhancing. But it's all because of a misunderstanding that women's empowerment, some people think women being empowered is to put them in competition with men. It's not being put in competition with men. It's basically correcting historical wrongs that has made women lag behind men. But other than that, this is what we are here for. The Commission on the Status of Women is to assess where the world is at 30 years since we came up with the 13-point agenda to improve the lot of women in the world. And we have, as a world, as a globe, progressed, but Kenya, we have done significantly very well. Of course, the areas are still many, but we've done very well.
What is the what importance is it? You know, Kenyans have been asking the full pictures of the former Prime Minister's wife, Mama Ida Odinga, governor here. What importance is it for CSW 69, especially for Kenya back home, and what would be perhaps one of the objectives that you would anticipate would be a good call to action from New York?
What I can say is that sometimes people don't understand. People think that when you come here, they see us in New York, that they think it's just mainly like a joyride. It's not a joyride. When you are here, for instance, you are with me in the section, and we are counting what Kenya has done and showcasing what Kenya has done. Again, as I've told you, people take the things that we have achieved in Kenya for granted because they are with us in Kenya. The fact that we have many more women in parliament. When I got in, we were only 16 women. Now we are over 100 women in parliament. The fact that now we have MCAs, which we never had in county assemblies. The fact that in the judiciary, we are almost at 50% women. The fact that even, as I said, even in education, there are many more girls that are doing very well, as opposed to 30 years ago. So there's a lot that has happened in Kenya. And the digital space has been enhanced. Our human rights process has been enhanced. It's just that there has been, not just in Kenya, but globally, in the last 2 or so years, there's been a pushback against human rights and against women's rights. But as a country, for sure, we have moved forward. But how did we move forward? We wouldn't have moved forward if we were not meeting like here, because we met as the world and came with those standards 30 years ago. And because we came with those standards 30 years ago that are measured every year. When we're here, we measure our progress in terms of the decisions we took 30 years ago. Where are we at now? Is there a problem? Where can it be sorted? Like now we are talking about the situation that is pertaining because of the way Americans have decided to withdraw their money. What is the world discussing? How do we sort that out? Is there a way that countries can be helped? We need technical assistance. Where are the funding gaps? How can funding be restructured? How can other countries come in? That conversation can only be had in Kenya with Kenyans only. But we're having that conversation not just with Kenyans, but other multilateral agencies, other countries as well. And it is through initiatives like that that we also have other agencies sometimes giving assistance in cash or in kind. But not only that, sometimes we learn from each other. Like you notice when you are talking as Kenya, there are many countries that were taking notes. In the same manner as Kenya, when we come here, we learn from other countries where we can also help. It's not benchmarking, but it is actually learning from each other, holding each other accountable, and monitoring our steps and seeing where we have missed steps and which need to be corrected.
Absolutely. I'll give you a chance just a minute to say to a lady who says, you mentioned her and she's in studio.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you very much. And I'm humbled and honored to know that I've made a difference in your life. And God can use me more to do that.
Indeed. This has been Honorable Millie Odhiambo. Thank you so much, Ms. Miller. She did make a presentation earlier on in one of the side events here at the headquarters. And just to show you, she's doing those elections are from Kenya, living here in New York, who celebrate because it is a conference on the 69th session, of the Commission on the Status of Women, where a lot is really happening. Several delegates have converged for several sessions to just be able to discuss, especially on Beijing plus 30. You've heard from Millie Odhiambo, Mheshimiwa, that what was discussed in Beijing 30 years ago is what is being put on check. For instance, let me show you this side event that is going on. This is the side event in Gaza for Dignity. Earlier on, that's where we were for a session on women in leadership and parliamentarians. There is CSW side event, Tech and Empowerment, Global South Perspective. So there is a plethora of issues. That is Millie Odhiambo, and I think a section of Kenyans who are here to just be able to say, we are live on TV47. We are live on TV47 Kenya. What do you have to say to the women back home, and what CSW means for you?
Yeah, this is an important to say. Women power. Every person, every woman out there should continue doing whatever they're doing, whether in small, big way, even impact the society. At the end of the day, the women, the girls, we are.
What's your name?
I'm Bathsheba. I'm from Kenya. I'm an assistant commissioner under the Ministry of Interior. Currently, I'm in Japan and running my master's in public policy.
Brilliant. And what about you, ma'am?
Yes, I'm Ren, and I'm residing in Ghana. I speak both French and English, and I'm also here to support women. And then, like she said earlier, every small thing that you're doing, you know that we are there, we are all doing support today.
And you, ma'am, finally?
The game is international, but I want to be together with your work. And also work with
Absolutely. And this is Kewapa. Perhaps you can speak about, what Kewapa does on matters women in leadership.
Okay, so my name is Blessing Martin. I'm the executive director at the Kenya Women So our work is to support the women in parliament so that they are able to effectively carry out their mandate, legislation, oversight, and representation. So we do that in areas where capacity building and work like this we did on the brilliant event. Working for women to just come from a meeting of the parliamentary union where women can discuss on sharing, challenges and we learn from each other.
Absolutely.
We are happy to do it.
let me leave you to have the moment with the Honorable Millie Odhiambo. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Our viewers, Linda and Liz, that's the situation here at the UN headquarters in New York. The first day was yesterday, Monday, and there was also the arrival of the former Prime Minister's wife, that is Mama Ida Odinga, Governor Gladys Wanga, that is Governor Wavinya Ndeti. The Kenyan delegation is led by PS Anangombe, the PS for Gender, and the Kenyan mission is just outside the UN headquarters. On my right, we'll be able to also get more perspectives about this commission on the status of women. But that is what is happening here in New York. We want to continue to wish you fruitful discussions with Studio Linda and Liz as we continue to follow what is happening, especially on the sidelines at the back of IW.